of the series The Magic of Color Online. So I really hope that you've been gaining some personal insights and some personal support from the processes that we've undertaken so far, and that with the opportunity to engage more, if you like, with the color readings, which we're going to do today, as well as go through a couple of additional colors, is that you will be able to expand your level of understanding, both expand and deepen your level of understanding through various other frequencies and colors, and the way in which that color can be used to support both yourself and people close to you and other people in your life. Whether or not you choose to sort of make a profession out of it, it's just a wonderful, practical, everyday tool that provides you with information where you may be questioning things in your life. You know, I mean, for instance, here's something quite interesting. I have been very, very aware in the last 2 weeks that I've been drawn towards a lot of the color red. And in fact, it has been interesting because a lot of the issues that have been addressed, if you like, or have become prominent has been lack of sleep, disrupted sleep patterns. I think I said to you last week it was almost a relief that we didn't go ahead with the class because I'd had a few sleepless nights. So where that is the case, we tend to be a bit low on energy because we haven't had an opportunity to regenerate. So red is actually a color that supports us with physical energy, as has been mentioned before. And very often what I do is I don't consciously say, oh, I'm tired, I'll go for red. I find myself just going and choosing certain colors more often, and then I sort of become aware of it. So that's one of the things that you can sort of be aware of is, okay, so what are you being drawn to at the moment? Because that will change as circumstances in your life actually change and shift as well. So, what I would like to start off with is a review of the homework that was actually sent through to you at the end of the fourth gathering. And this, we kind of did a preliminary reading at the end of the fourth class. So what I want to do is just explore this in a little bit more depth, and then I have the second reading, which was also in your homework, if you've had an opportunity to look at it, to think about it, to perhaps jot down a couple of notes on it. Have you had an opportunity to look at both of the readings? Either of you? Okay, so you've read the homework but not completed it. That's okay. It just gets your mind engaged. You did two three-bottle readings. Oh, well done, Sharon. So you haven't done the homework ones, but you've actually done three-bottle readings with friends or other people. Ah, Brill. How did they go? Just out of interest. How did you find them, and how did they go? Both said some good things came up and some not. I found it quite difficult to expand. That's okay because when we first start doing this and working with them, we do find that when we come up against a block from the other person to expand on the issues, yeah, that's fine. We do find when we hit a brick wall, if you like, with the individual, that it almost gets us doubting what we are offering them. So in certain cases, it could just be that they're not willing to acknowledge some of the issues. It also is important to remember, so don't forget this, is that at any one moment in time, they won't be relating to all of the challenging issues that are expressed or encompassed, if you like, by the frequencies of a particular color. There will be something within there that they will be able to relate to. Um, and I actually find that it's just in the discussion with them, once I actually relax with the process, that I hit on things very often in cases where it's not written in the workbook. It's just sort of almost reading behind the lines or behind the colors. So it's kind of like seeing a thread or seeing a story, or homing in on something that feels really important. So working with them is a process also of developing and trusting, learning to trust your intuition. You're going to try again with friends who are keen to be guinea pigs. Fantastic. I'm really, really pleased to hear that. I think that's fab. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you a 9-bottle reading. We will go through that towards the end of the session, just very briefly. So if you want some more information to work with, you can extend it into doing a 9-bottle color reading. To be perfectly upfront with you and to be perfectly honest, we have found, and this also includes Penny and a number of other practitioners, is that we very, very seldom use the 9-bottle format. It's given to you so that you have that additional tool. If you choose to use it, more often than not, what we find is that the 3-bottle reading is simpler and you get enough information to be able to A, discuss with your client, and B, to provide them with a decent level of support from the 3-bottle reading. So really that's where we're going to go today. So the preparation and the background to the 3-bottle reading is on page 47 in your workbook, and a specific process is actually outlined for you by Penny. So there's a comment here where Sharon's saying, I need to know the colors better. I was referring too often to the book rather than out of my head. That's okay, and it's okay in the beginning because it helps with the confidence levels. You will find as you go along that you might just need the book for keywords, or you can make a little chart or use the color mandala with just keywords on, which helps to just trigger your connections into the particular colors. So it's all okay, and it's part of the learning process. And what happens is that it's less out of your head and it's more a feeling, intuitive process. So it's more that you are connecting with the energies of it. It almost becomes a kinesthetic thing where you actually really sort of connect with the frequencies and the energies of the color. You feel them rather than thinking about what they mean. And in that way, you find that words sort of pop up out of nowhere, and that's what I've found over the years, which is what makes it so valuable. So Penny has given you a specific process to use, which is a very, very good guideline. So we tend to work with the 3-bottle reading, as in first bottle relates to the key issue they're dealing with, the second bottle is the pathway for support, and the third bottle is the potential outcome of their current process. So what I want to tell you now at this moment is that you can decide when you are doing a reading that you want to make those 3 bottles mean something else. So you set the intention with a reading to perhaps read them in a slightly different way. So you might decide, and this is what I do sometimes, you may decide that, okay, I'm going to do a 3-bottle reading, and before I ask the client to choose their 3 bottles, in my mind I'm setting the intention that the first bottle they choose represents an issue from the past that they have successfully resolved, that they have transformed and come through. So they would have realized a lot of the gifts in what they went through in the past. And then I'll make the second bottle mean Okay, and this is where they are at in the present. So you can shift it along and say, well, the second bottle represents more of the key issues. And then the third bottle represents the pathway to resolution and some of the gifts that they will actually realize as a consequence of using the third bottle. So you can essentially determine for yourself by setting the intention how you want the story to roll out through the three bottle choices. So I think it's worth remembering that your guideline system is a very, very good process, but you can also change it if you set your intention for it to be otherwise. So you may decide, here's another one, so you may decide that you want the first bottle to be the issue, and then you want the second and the third bottles to expand on that issue. So what else may be hidden that's not being acknowledged or that may be unconscious around the issue? Because generally when it's a key issue, some of the elements and aspects of it will be consciously recognized very quickly. So you could say, well, I want the second bottle and the third bottle to give me some more unconscious aspects that are not being acknowledged. Let's help to bring it up into the light, bring it out into the open. And then you might choose to do a standalone and do a single one once you've actually done the reading. And then say, okay, well, now choose a fourth one, another bottle, which will be the energy that they need to help to resolve it. So that's just a little bit of insight. I hope that makes sense to you in the different ways that you can then apply your tools. And you're working with the processes. Okay, so let's have a look at the three bottle reading that's on here, and for the purposes of this work, we are following the traditional format. So we have issue, pathway, and potential outcome. And we really only skimmed this in the last session, so what I would like you ladies to do now is to just sort of type up into the chat room as well. What would the key questions be if you had a client that was actually, that had chosen this selection of bottles? So if you had a client that pulled this out, what would be the first thing that you would ask them or note, if you like, for them? It's the first thing that actually strikes you. Grief or depression? Yeah, I think you might have brought that up the last time, Sharon, as well. That yeah, but it's grief or depression. Have you lost something or someone in the recent past, recently? And that, you know, it could be 6 months ago, it could be 12 months ago. So, Rashina, what have we got? What is it they feel they want to deal with as an issue consciously? Okay, yeah, you could actually get them to bring that to light for themselves. Yeah, so if they had to pick an issue in their life that they wanted to deal with at the moment, what would it be? And that really opens it up, and you can see how that aligns with what their color choices have been. Because if you allow them to do that, you will find that there is an alignment with that color, you know, and then people are really quite amazed at the connections there. So yeah, what I would do and how I would actually approach this is I would actually say to them, have you been through some situations in your life where you have either lost something, whether you feel, whether it's loss of an identity, whether you've been through some kind of change already and that you feel as if you have lost identity, or you may have lost a loved one, you may have lost a job, you may have experienced physical loss or emotional loss in some way, shape or form, or just sort of feeling isolated from life, that you may have been hibernating a bit, cut off, just disconnected, and also perhaps not wanting to be here, that life may have been, for one reason or another, a struggle. Has life been a bit of a struggle for you in some way, shape, or form? And then allow them to sort of elaborate on what those circumstances may possibly have been. Because that's exactly it. Violet points to, it relates to the crown, it points to our levels of connection, with our divine self, connection and disconnection. So it really is about disconnection. Um, Feeling disconnected, experiencing grief or loss, and going through. So you could actually say to them, sort of once they start discussing and becoming open to their issues, it's also important, I think, that they understand that this is a process to engage with, that you're not doing a psychic trick in that you're going to sit there and just actually tell them stuff about their bottles. It really is about them using the colors to be able to support them through whatever it is that they're dealing with. So it's more of a sharing, interactive process. Remember that little snippet of information too. There's a lot of people just sit there and they want you to tell them, and that's sort of, they've given their power away to you to do that rather than them engaging with their own power. So that's also a disconnect issue. So once they open up and they can communicate with you sort of about what they may have been experiencing, you can confirm that for them as being information that is actually contained in their color choice, and that whatever it is that they have been going through is an opportunity for them to transform something deeply within their life. Because on the positive side, violet and the action that it brings is about transformation. Yep. It really depends on how you approach it. Yeah, so it's good to get them, as you say, Rashina, you would ask them and then use the colors to support or expand on the issue. Usually the colors will support what they are saying. Absolutely. That's exactly it. And it's by asking questions that you get them to open up and discuss, that it gets the flow of the conversation. Bring the challenge to the positive side. Yes, it's a wonderful, wonderful comment, Sharon, because it can sometimes get a little bit heavy, if you like, if we're constantly harping on about the negative. So we need to highlight what the challenges are and the gift in the challenge. Rather, it's about the gift in the challenge. So the gift in the challenges that they are going through right now is that they are experiencing transformation. So it's kind of like the healing process has already begun through their choice of color, and that transformation is really deep. It's something that's going to bring about a totally different perspective on their life. This also allows them to own the issue. Well said. Because they have to deal with it and work through it themselves. Yes. Very, very well said. It's always important that aspect of ownership is there for them. So when I'm actually working through this, even while highlighting some of the more difficult aspects of the past, or the colors or what the issues are, I also like to bring out and do a little bit of focusing on what the gifts in those challenges are. Okay, so you would also find, say for instance, red is a hidden color in violet. So violet is a combination of blue and red, that they are really, really searching for deeper peace, a deeper feeling of peace within themselves. And when we have depression, we don't have peace. And depression is too much of the blue, and anger, which is red, turned in on itself. So you can actually see how depression is an element or an aspect of the violet. being comprised of blue and red. So it's the hidden red that is not being acknowledged in there. So if the red, the anger, the negative aspects of red are turned inwards and we're trying to put a block or a lid on that stuff, it drains our energy. It takes up so much of our life force energy to keep that down. And ultimately what it does is it drains us of our passion. So we're not able to connect with what truly inspires us. And that's ultimately a gift in the violet: transformation and inspiration. So once they've actually transformed some of the deeper stuff, they will experience that, and in terms of moving into a life that is more inspired. And I'm talking about being inspired from a higher sense, because we've got the sort of the gut creativity, which is an orange issue. This is almost like divine inspiration. It's like that little voice that comes out of nowhere that says, do this, and you get all excited about it. It's like, wow, So those are the hidden gifts in the depression, in the grief, and in the transformation of violet. So there's a whole lot that you can actually work with and support them in drawing that information out with that. So the green then becomes the pathway. So how will green support them in recognizing or realizing some of the gifts, in supporting the transformation? Well, green as a color, I know we haven't gone through this in detail. It's one of the colors that I actually have in the presentation today. But green is a color that actually speaks of nature, yes, space, direction, changes in direction, the ability to make decisions. What happens when we are depressed? We don't feel capable of making any kind of decisions about our lives. We are so internalized. So what the green does is it helps to expand our sphere. So it actually helps to lift us out of that depression, and it helps to give us a more expansive and different perspective on life. So with that, one of the things that we would actually recommend for them is to go out and spend time in nature. Go out, hug a tree, do something crazy like hug a tree. Go and do some gardening, get your fingers into the soil. Plant some green stuff. Work with green in your environment. Bring some green, sort of pot plants or colors into your space. Get a nice green scarf. Use the green oil, whatever it might be, because it will then help them to lift out of that depression, to be able to make just those small one-step changes, which will enable them to experience both themselves and how they relate to life in a more expansive way. Okay. Things like spending time with friends, talk through some of the stuff, go out for lunch, have a good time with friends or people that you trust. If you use the oil, do you have to rub it onto the relevant spot only? No, the answer to that actually is no, you don't. Because again, it's highly intuitive. As a guideline, that would be applied over the heart and the lungs, because it really is about being able to breathe in life, So it's an expansion of the heart and expansion of the chest and ability to take life in. However, if you are drawn to use it in a different area, use it. So you might want to feel like you want to put it on your feet. And in fact, that's a brilliant thing, these oils. Yes, arms. Well, arms also relate to the heart. Absolutely. So that's fine. You can rub it on the arms without any problem. It's perfect. To use these oils with, say, a reflexology treatment, even if you've got a partner and you're just giving them a hand massage or a foot massage, you're actually impacting all of the reflex points and all of the meridians with that frequency of color through something very, very simple like a hand or a foot massage. So it's very powerful. It's helping to sustain and balance the whole body when you do that. So there are many ways that you can apply them. and intuitive guidance is perfect. So that's really what you want to do. You want to get them to change their mind and their outlook one small aspect at a time in a way that is safe, because the person needs to feel safe about going through that expansion and re-engaging with life. Anybody who has been through severe depression, where they have been very internalized for very deeply and for an extended period of time, will understand the degree of sensitivity that's needed when you start coming out of it, and it's small steps at a time. So the individual does need to feel safe in coming out of that and in making the changes. So that's really what you want to recommend on that score as well. So be mindful of that safety aspect. So trust is an important factor here with both of these bottles. So you don't want the heart to be too vulnerable through the process. And then we have orange, which is the third one, which is the potential outcome of their current process. So just very, very briefly, what you could say is that orange in that case would then represent a potential outcome where they begin to experience joy in their life once more. Orange is about joy. Orange is uplifting. It is the opposite of violet. It's on the opposite side of the spectrum. Green is the balancing color of the heart. So you've really got a process that's taking place here. You're going from internalized through the balancing healing aspect of green, the middle of the spectrum, to the opposite side of the spectrum, which is then bringing them out of themselves. Excitement, re-engaging, joy, upliftment, refinding passion in life. They may be able to then re-engage with some creative activities, expanding their sphere from just a small trusted group of friends to feeling safe enough to go out in larger environments. You know, Orange is the one who can actually go to a rock concert and feel quite happy being amongst larger crowds of people, for instance. Being able to re-engage with relationships in a much more free, with more freedom, and less concern, if you like, about how we might be perceived. So it's more of an interest in others rather than self. So violet would be the internalized aspect of the self. Orange takes you out and re-engages you with other people. So your focus becomes externalized and more on other people and what you can actually do to support and assist those, and in really just having a little bit more fun in life. So there's that one. Now, what I would like you to do is let's just have a look at this second one, because it was a completely different sequence of colors. And we start off with yellow being the issue, turquoise being the pathway, and red being the outcome. So we have a very, very different sequence. So if somebody chose this selection of colors, what might you actually highlight for them, ask them about, if this was what was sitting in front of you? From Kirsten. Yellow, lack of confidence and self-belief. Yes, absolutely. So what I would turn that around, and what I would actually say to the individual, or the first thing that I would open up with is, have you been through something recently that has really bashed your confidence in yourself? It could be through some circumstances where you've had a particular belief system about yourself that's been knocked, where you may have been subjected to criticism, because yellow is also about criticism. And that has really knocked your confidence and in yourself, or your feeling of worthy, your feelings of worthiness. Have you been in a situation where somebody else may have um, knocked you down, sort of where you feel as if you've been robbed of a sense or a presence of power, you know, where you're really beginning to question who you are in the world, your identity in the world, which has maybe caused a bit of confusion. For instance, yellow in its challenging aspect is about confusion. Has it caused a bit of confusion about your identity, about who you are, about what you believed in? Not only about yourself, but about other people. Because what can often happen here is that, you know, when somebody turns on us and we're not expecting that from anybody else, is that it rocks our world in a sense that we question our own abilities to be able to trust in others, to discern in others. So it erodes our confidence at many, many levels and in many different ways. So it could be circumstances related to ourselves only. It could be a set of circumstances that is linked with another individual that's eroded our confidence and our feelings of worth and belief in ourselves. Do you have, you know, sort of deep feelings of not being worthy in life? How do you feel? How do you feel about um, praise or acknowledgement from other people? Because one of the issues in the yellow as well is that very often the individual seeks out or survives on external validations. So we need those external validations coming in order to strengthen our belief in ourselves. So has something happened? And that's why these individuals can be so sensitive to criticism, because criticism is then seen as a negative validation. So it can really, really knock things in many different ways. This individual as well will likely be experiencing some tension or pressure in their solar plexus. What else do you think they may be experiencing physically that you could ask them about? Any comments there? Skin issues. Yep. Yep. Okay. Yeah, okay, that's great, Sharon. Yeah, skin issues. Have you had any skin eruptions or skin outbreaks? Do you have any problems with things like eczema or dermatitis or psoriasis? Do you find that you get very anxious when you're in the company of people that you don't know, for instance? Because there again, we are seeking validation. We use other people as our external mirror for our self-validation very, very often. So this individual would be feeling sort of anxious the minute they need to present themselves to an external group of people. Um, One of the other aspects of this could be feelings of nausea, because we're talking solar plexus, which governs the stomach. High degree of sensitivity, tension in the solar plexus area, nausea, stomach irritability, possible heartburn, acidic stomach, acidic problems, problems with the upper digestive system. So you're really dealing with the upper digestive system here with the yellow. So there's lots that you can explore with individuals around this, bearing in mind that the yellow as well does indicate quite a high level of sensitivity because of its focus on the solar plexus, where there is a whole abdominal network of nerves, where there's almost like a nerve junction in that area. So it's a high degree of sensitivity there. Also somebody who tends to be highly intuitive but is very, very likely lacking the confidence to be able to either trust that or follow it through. So high degree of intuition, but not following through on it. So I would often ask people, sort of with that and with the blues. So I'd often come at it with it from the yellow aspect as well. Do you find that you get gut feelings about things? Sort of a really sensitive in your stomach area when you know that something is right or not right. And then I would always say to them, and do you act on that gut instinct that you get? And very, very often people will say no. And I'll say that's one of the most important things, is to learn to trust those feelings. Those feelings are absolutely right. And I explain to them about this nerve junction in the solar plexus that's receiving energetic information from the external environment through the spot. So it's very interesting with this. Yellow is a very, very interesting one to work with. So if you now go from yellow to turquoise, turquoise is the pathway. What would you actually sort of convey to them on that score? How would turquoise support them, and what kind of activities or things? Okay, that's all right. The more confident you actually become with this, and the more you've actually worked with it, the easier these aspects arise, or the easier the information arises on it. Turquoise. Okay, so let me give you a couple of insights here. Color of balance. Well, turquoise links us in with green because turquoise, in fact, is comprised of green and yellow. Oh, sorry, blue and yellow. So there is almost like it's a hidden green. You take green and you add more blue to it. So there is some yellow in turquoise. So it helps us to balance these yellow aspects through the heart. So there is a balancing aspect in there, but it does that through the soothing, calming qualities of blue. Or of turquoise. So one of the elements that this links us with is air, being out there under blue skies and with blue water. So this individual would actually benefit greatly. It looks calming. Yes, it is calming, and it's very soothing. And turquoise is also for helping us to break down those barriers to the recognition and the trust of our inner self. So it helps us to access our inner self, and to begin to trust, because there's a trust aspect here, to begin to trust in the intuitive process that actually unfolds for us that's perfect. So it links with the elements of air. We think blue skies. We also think water. Water and dolphins. Remember, this connects with the dolphin element as well, and it breaks down our barriers. Um, so one of the things that I would actually recommend to individuals if they've chosen this is to perhaps take some natural sea salt, good quality sea salt that is actually, you begin to trust your own voice as it's connected to the throat. Well said, Rashina, absolutely. That's absolutely what it is. So where this is a lack of confidence in all of that, this brings the individual to a place where that trust and confidence can actually be developed. But it's done through enabling them to find their own core of peace, and quiet and calm. So rather than getting all frazzled through the solar plexus, through this exposed nerve area, you can take a few deep breaths, the air, you connect with the heart, with the throat, you calm down, you counterbalance this, you calm down the excessive energy, if you like, of the solar plexus and the lack of confidence, and then somebody can enable the expression and speak up for themselves where previously they perhaps wouldn't have been able to. Hope that makes a little bit of sense. So, because of the oceanic aspects and connection with this, also allow you to talk from the heart because of the green in this. Yeah, green plus blue. So you've got green of the heart and the blue of communication melded in the turquoise, which enables you to speak from the heart. So it's quite fascinating how the colors build up. You know, it's kind of like look at what's in there, and how do they connect in terms of supporting that person. So a great one here with the turquoise would be give them the turquoise color to work with. And again, you can apply it on the upper chest area. So it helps to expand because very, very often somebody who's lacking confidence and who's struggling with an imbalance or issue in this area, you'd find that they would be almost folded over their solar plexus trying to protect it because it's so sensitive. Whereas what this turquoise enables them to do by using that and applying it over the upper chest area, it's like put your shoulders back and open your chest area so that you can breathe in life, breathe in confidence, stand up straight, and feel more powerful in your own skin. Feel more at home in your own skin. Yes, I wear this color too when I'm going to talk to groups of people in public. Very, very good color to use for that, especially with large groups of people. So it helps you to interface at that level. So one of the suggestions that I was going to give you about getting a client to work with this, they can work with this color, also suggest that they get some really good quality sea salt, or even, you know, sort of like Dead Sea salts or Himalayan salts, but it's got to be good quality salt that's got a lot of minerals, not the stuff that's been stripped that we tend to use. And you will find the difference in this, that if you get good sea salts, put it into a bathtub where it's got all of those minerals and you soak in it, it is almost like bathing in the ocean. Okay, so put a really generous handful of that salt in the tub. It softens your skin. It softens and soothes your skin so that you feel less scratchy, if you like. Just bear in mind skin conditions and skin elements. It's like you feel a bit scratchy. The salt actually soothes that and helps you connect with the turquoise element of the dolphins. Put a nice meditation on. Spend a little bit of time finding that peaceful core within. So I would suggest that the person spends a bit of time with meditation, has sea salt baths, possibly burns a candle or does some space clearing in their environment so that they feel more powerful. You want activities and suggestions that enable them to feel more confident and powerful within themselves. Can you think of anything else that you might suggest for them to do? Basically, that's what the color would bring for them. It would bring a balance and confidence and a surety, if you like, stability of their energy fields and reduce the sensitivity. Nothing else coming there? Okay. So, if the outcome is red and you've actually now done some work with this, what's the outcome of a process like that? It's an unusual combination, this. Energy returning and being rejuvenated. Yes. Restoration of passion, the ability to take risks. It's very interesting looking at the theme of these colors because if one lacks confidence and self-worth, one lacks the ability to take chances and take risks with life. So there is, yeah, you mentioned the word growth. So while growth tends to be a green color or green quality, through risk taking, we do enable growth. So we know inherently that there is that counterbalance between red and green, going back to the color mandala, and that there is a very, very definite link. So what this is, it's the energy and the courage. It's more the courage to take risks which would lead to further growth, further confidence, and further expansion. To engage passionately with something without worrying about what other people would think. There's a lot of concern here with what other people think, hence the validation issue. And this is the ability to take risks and chances without worrying about what other people would think. So it really is. It's the risk taking, the passion for life, the strength of presence, of being, and of the ability to move beyond the paralysis that actually could come if this is taken to an extreme. If there is extreme anxiety, it can result in paralysis, inability to move, okay, being stunted. So there's an incredible gift in that sequence or that flow. So in this case, what might also be really nice to do is to give the individual turquoise and recommend that perhaps once a day that they actually do use that red. Take a chance. And now what I would do is if somebody chose this selection, I would say to them, do you know what? Is there something in your life that you have perhaps always wanted to do, but you've just been too chicken or afraid to take that step towards doing it? What's the one outrageous thing that you've perhaps always wanted to do? You know, or a couple of things that you've perhaps always wanted to do. Now, here's the red bottle. Use it once a day and choose one of those things that you've always wanted to do and allow yourself to do it. Because once you do it once and you take one small step and you have the courage to do that once, you then engage and have the courage to do it again and take a bigger step and more risk. So you re-engage an upward moving spiral. Yes, red is the pioneer. Absolutely. That's a wonderful way of describing it. It's a pioneer color. Yeah, it's the one who goes out and finds new ways to do things. But if you don't have the confidence in yourself to do that, you would never take the risk and do that. So you can kind of see and kind of get the idea how everything ultimately has to be in balance. When we are out of balance with one, it affects many other aspects of self. Okay, so everyone that we bring back into balance has a multiple influence throughout our energy system, our psyche, our mental, emotional, and physical bodies. So how do you feel about that? Does that give you just a little bit more confidence to go out there and do some more playing and do some more readings? Play with it. Play with it. Oh, goody. Well done, Rashina. Keen to practice. It is fun. It's amazing, you know, kind of. I think the wonderful thing is that when you do it and you get something right and you know that you haven't referred back to your notes, you kind of go, wow, you know, it's stuff that I didn't realize I knew. Just don't forget that all of this is information that you hold within yourself because we are all of these colors anyway. So go out there and have some fun with it. Right, so that's the 3 bottle readings. Let's have a look. Don't you love this picture? And that's part of the liberation. The butterfly is actually the message of freedom and liberation. And that's why I like to use it with the week 5 as well, because you really start experiencing some of that liberation of yourself through the journey and the process and understanding just what you're capable of. So I love it. Plus the fact that it's got all of the colors in it. It's just such a beautiful image. Right. So what I'd like you to do now, we're just going to do 3 colors, and then I'm going to sketch through the 9 bottle reading, because I will give you one of the 9-bottle readings as your homework. So it gives you an opportunity to just take it a little bit deeper and a little bit further for the next week. So wherever you are, just sit now very comfortably with your eyes closed and just now take a long, slow, deep breath in and access all of that excitement within you at the understanding that you already are that which you perhaps seek, or that which you perhaps have not acknowledged, and that the gifts that reside within you are just bubbling up and emerging, waiting to make themselves known. Just for a few moments with your breathing, feel the expanded self, your expanded presence. Okay, and when you're ready, open your eyes and breathe in the color on the screen. And this is what we know as pearl. And what are the first words that actually come up for you when you look at that color? Yes, I would apply it in the same way as I would actually apply white. It's just that when one looks at the oil, it's actually clear, transparent. So we don't use the opaque. Purity, peace, yes. Anything else that you pick up from that one? Transparency, there's a wonderful word I just gave you. Ice, there's a good one. Yep, ice frozen. Okay. So, so somebody who actually chooses this at one with self, a reflect. Yes, it's also a mirror at one with self, a reflection of self. That's brilliant, and whatever that is reflecting back to the self. So it's like there are, yes, white actually has, or it reflects all colors, which is why it's kind of like the mirror. So it's like, what do you see when you look in the mirror? So yeah, where black absorbs all frequencies and holds the light within, the white or the clear reflects all frequencies and holds nothing in. So in a sense, when we look at this, we kind of see an energy or an essence that has no filters. So there are no filters here. So you could say that, you know, green oil has a specific filter across it which prevents us from experiencing certain other frequencies, because that is the one that's actually being reflected back to us. With pearl, there are no filters. So from an expanded perspective, from a harmonious issue, if you like, it's somebody who is in total contact and connection with their higher self and is very, very clearly guided, very sensitive, very gentle, very vulnerable, but not necessarily in a negative way. So we're talking the harmonious aspects. Very clear, very positive, very enthusiastic, great clarity of mind, and totally transparent. It's somebody that actually has no hidden agendas. Sort of all of that is actually being brought to light. Inner strength, because it's somebody who basically just stands there and broadcasts the light and all of the frequencies. It's like they are a clear prism, is a wonderful analogy. So this is clear prism that takes all of the frequencies and reflects them all out as clear, clear light. Okay. So it's a loving, gentle package, totally transparent. It is the innocent, it kind of is that true innocent who is just so connected with everything around them. Somebody who can't lie. They just don't have the ability to lie because you would see through it. You would have that transparency straight away. You would see through it. And in a sense as well, this individual can see through that in other people or other individuals. No, so it's not that this individual has no issues. That's in its total harmonious form. That in order for us to be in that space, we need to have all of the other colors in complete balance. So where somebody actually chooses this, it's very, very seldom you find somebody who is manifesting all of the harmonious qualities of the clear. We would go through stages where this becomes pertinent or apparent because it is bringing transparency to a particular aspect of ourselves. Lovely comment there, Gina, because by bringing transparency to some of the aspects and issues within ourselves, it enables us to bring that purity of love, and it enables us to be. Now, bear in mind as well that we carry ancestral patterns. We have things within our energetic matrix. We actually have sort of things that we pick up from people in our environments all of the time. So we would move in and out generally of this transparency. It's a constant dance to be able to bring that purity into everyday life situations. So it would tend to be related to some aspect of our life. It's not often that you find somebody who truly embodies the fullness of this purity. Because of all of the things that we've been through. Now, because of the gentleness, because this person has no agendas, because there is an extreme sensitivity to everything else, if this bottle or this color appears in a challenging position or as an issue, the challenges would be that it represents somebody who has possibly been through a very intense time, possibly unable to cope, because they're very sensitive emotionally, they could actually freeze themselves out of their emotions because it is just too much for them to experience life on this earth. If one looks into people's souls, yeah, very often you can actually see this light, and this light gets filtered through the person. So that's a very interesting comment, Rashina, that Nelson Mandela to you reflected this in his soul. I would also say he had the soul. He had a wisdom that goes along with that process of purification that he actually went through. One would perhaps look at some of the actions undertaken and not necessarily condone everything and every decision that he ever took, but there is also a respect and an understanding of his humanness in that journey, and that his entire journey was about purifying a lot of that in order to bring that gift back into his purpose in life, which it was. So, and I love the fact it's a very interesting analogy, because under his leadership, South Africa became known as the Rainbow Nation, which is then that clear light broken up into all of its components, each one recognized and honored for what they actually bring to the whole. So it is a very interesting analogy there. Okay, so this could also be an individual in the challenging aspects, who almost feels as if there is no color in their life, where it's very difficult for them to express themselves through the energies of the various colors, where they haven't learned to break down this light into its component parts and come to truly understand it. So they haven't connected with the colors that actually make this up. Okay, so this becomes just plainly and simply a screen for them. So they may be feeling traumatized, they may be feeling challenged, they may be feeling like they need to have a damn good cry, because they also have the cleansing of tears. So without any color in their life, also withdrawn, frozen out emotionally, needing to cry, because tears then cleanse and they begin to connect us with the emotional body and with some of the colors that go alongside and along with access to that. So it's somebody who's been through very difficult circumstances and needs to look for the gifts in the experiences, understand them from a higher level, truly allow that transparency to become the filter for the component aspects. The other thing about not having any filters is this could also represent somebody who totally absorbs everything that's going on in their environment. So if they have been in a particularly difficult environment, they could be absorbing whatever's going on in that environment. So if somebody chooses this as an issue, you might want to ask them as well whether they are working in a particularly disturbing, disruptive environment, or whether they feel like they're just soaking up other people's emotions, because what it's actually trying to do is it's trying to get this person with this issue to connect with that emotional state within themselves. So there is a gift in those circumstances. It teaches about strength. It teaches about the strength of that clear core within, surrounded and permeated by all of the vibrant, vibrant colors that make up life, all of life. Life is not just white. Life is not just dark or black. Life is all of the colors. So somebody who's chosen this as an issue is possibly quite heavily sort of tuned themselves out of all of those life experiences because it's been difficult. Does this make sense? Very insecure often and emotionally overwhelmed. It's more rather than sun, because sun I think tends to go along with the gold and the yellow and the orange colors, which is really bright and vibrant and fiery. This is more like it's the light of the soul, ultimately. It's the light of our highest, brightest essence. If you like, our diamond essence, our diamond self. So the opposite of this might be perceived as being weakness from an issue perspective, but its opposite is an inner core strength. Yeah, it is very interesting, Sharon. Not many people would actually choose this. There is a very, very high level of sensitivity that actually surrounds this. Very strong need to let past hurts and things go. SAD lights that are used contain all of the spectrum of light in the bulbs. Yeah, that's actually full spectrum lighting. I'm not too sure what the balance is of that full spectrum lighting, whether it does contain them all in equal measure or whether there is still a color tint to that light spectrum. Yeah, to me this kind of goes beyond the sun. The full spectrum lighting is generally used in winter in SAD when we have been overwhelmed with the blue. So part of me is saying that there would then be a preponderance of perhaps the yellows and the oranges and a strengthening of those in order to balance the overwhelming lilac-y blues that we are subject to during the winter months. And in so doing, through the solar yellow, oranges, golds, through those more energizing frequencies, the balance is brought about, enabling us to access the clear, transparent self within, if that makes sense. The transparency. So it is difficult. Physically, very interesting with this one. I haven't had that many people who choose this color. Sort of in many of the readings that I've had, but physically you get individuals choosing this, thanks Rashina, who end up having problems with their sinuses, and this makes sense because we were talking about freezing out emotions and unshed tears, which tend to be also related to and associated with indigo. So you get unshed tears, problems with sinuses, blocking, freezing out of emotions, lack of energy because of this inability to connect with the passion, the flow of life. Water imbalances in the body because of its link with water. So you could find excessive retention of water, water retention, or somebody who drinks too much coffee and tends to dehydrate, but water imbalances, head colds, and cystitis. And now you can see that those relate to cystitis is something very often applies more strongly with the orange. So you can kind of see the balance, some of the balancing here. Orange tends to be a cystitis issue, whereas indigo, which is on the opposite side of the spectrum, look, orange and indigo, or gold and indigo, sinusitis tends to be more associated with indigo. So again, you get that cross-spectrum balancing going on with the clear. So you're looking at all of those aspects. So there's a lot in there. Needing to release past hurts, shed some tears, do the cleansing. Now this one should be pretty quick because we've gone through green in the color reading. So just close your eyes for a moment. And just breathe in and out. And just allow your mind to rest, to release the information that's in there at the moment. Let it go. Let your intuitive self guide you in your connection with the frequencies of the color. And open your eyes and just breathe it in. And let's just have a couple of keywords for this one. This shouldn't be too difficult based on what we've already discussed. So here we have green, two different shades of green. Fresh, balanced nature, life. Oh, yes, wonderful. Nature, love, heart, all of those things. So yeah, it really is. It's a soothing and a balancing color. One of the beautiful things about green is that it is a fabulous healing color. It's one of those where if you are in doubt, and you're not too sure what color to give to somebody, or if they're complaining about something, green, because it sits in the center of the spectrum, because it balances your external energizing colors with your inward magnetic colors. It's always a wonderful color to use in a healing environment. So it is fabulous um, for general healing. There have been some cautionary notes over time. I'm just sort of adding this for your information, that green should not be used where there is cancerous growth, because green as a growth stimulator, because it's one of those things that is associated with growth, could influence the promulgation of and the growth of cancerous cells as well. So I'm just actually giving that to you for what it's worth. I personally don't hold that fear, because green is actually balance, and it's through balance that we experience our healing. I actually experience green as being a restorative, balancing color that enables those cancerous cells to bring themselves back into harmony. So harmony is another word that actually goes with green. So it will enable us to restore physical health and harmony through its process. So nature always is able to ultimately restore harmony if we leave her alone and allow her to do it without interfering. So anyway, for what it's worth, I'm just throwing that in. Keywords associated with green are always decision making, um, space, changes in direction, and expansiveness. So it's healing. It's all of those wonderful positive aspects that you've brought up. Plus somebody who feels very comfortable about making changes in their life, who is not afraid to move into or take on new situations, who perhaps has a bigger perspective on life than your average person, who's had the blinkers taken off, so you've got more of a 360-degree view or perspective on events and things that actually happen, rather than a closed perspective. So it's a very expansive color. So in its challenging aspect, if this is actually chosen as an issue, it would represent the opposite of all of that. So it would represent the need for change, the need to open up one's perspective, the need to be able to take a decision. And if we think about green, one of the analogies that I actually use to illustrate this is, if you think about the stillness of a pond or water that hasn't been moved, that grows over with algae, green in its issue or its challenging aspect can also represent stagnation. Do you remember what we said about the red earlier? We got red and green opposing each other. So not being able to make decisions and bring about change can lead to lack of ability to move and stagnation. And there's a wonderful expression that goes, you can do whatever you set your mind to as long as you put your heart in it. And I love that expression because I think it is so relevant. It says, we don't think our way out of issues or problems. We need to be able to have a change of heart about things, because when we have a change of heart, we are then impulsed to act and bring about those changes. So green in its challenging aspect means that there could be some element or aspect of an individual's life that is stagnating, that requires a change from them. So how does that sit with you guys? Yeah, these expressions usually stem from something. Absolutely. You could do whatever you set your mind to as long as you put your heart into it. Yeah, change of heart. So absolutely. So it's not only about changing our mind about things, it's having a change of heart. So always remember that associated with the green, and that will lead you into the discussions of the issues around this color. So obviously physically it links with the heart area, it links with the chest, it links with the lungs, with blood pressure, with heart imbalances, things like arrhythmia, blood pressure, sort of, as I say, heart conditions, things like that. Somebody who has been too rigid and stuck in their belief systems, who actually couldn't get their head around, and if they can't get their head around changing, they won't be able to get their heart around changing either. Changing routines, changing something. So whenever somebody chooses this as an issue, have a look for what needs to change in their life, what needs to be brought back into balance and harmony. You know, where are they feeling out of harmony in their life? So without further ado, I see we're already at 25 past 8. I just can't believe where the time goes. Are you guys okay with the green? You know, obviously, as always, every color is actually in your book. Because I'd like to just, time flies. It's unbelievable. Okay, so close your eyes. Let's have a look at the next color. Close your eyes, breathe in. And breathe out. Just let that green sink into your system. Allow it. Deep breaths. Feel your body resonating with it as it expands your sense of being and enables you to open up your perspectives and understanding of all of the color frequencies that we've been working with. And take another deep breath in and out as you open your eyes and reflect upon the next color that's on the screen in front of you. Allow your body to feel it, almost as if you're touching it. This one is gold. And what are the keynotes that you actually connect with this color? Bright sunshine. Oh yeah, I know, isn't it lovely? Yeah, this is not, it's not really yellow, so you can see how it differs from the straight yellow to a warmer yellow. This is kind of like the sunflower yellow. It's warmer, richer. Yes, that's absolutely it. It's rich. It's the richness of the soul is gold. Glorious. Yep. Tis. Yeah, it is. It is that glory, you know, it is that you've got their power of love. Beautiful. It's the richness that arises when we have a full knowing and understanding and connection with who we are, why we are here on this earth. Yeah, it's the interesting thing about the bottles, Sharon. I just want to highlight this comment. It looks quite orange in the bottles because everything is handmade. And Penny makes up sort of relatively small batches of the oils at a time. You do find that the color changes slightly with the shades and the tints, and also the photograph actually looks different. So that shade of gold can actually shift and change. And if we think about gold anyway, you know, we do get shades of gold from the bright, almost brassy gold colors to the deeper, almost amber, rich honey gold colors. So we do find that gold also even itself moves through a spectrum of tones that's colored with other influences, if you like. So yes, it does change. you've got the oils, Sharon. Take the gold out. Do a little bit of application of gold on your hands and just smell this color. It is beautiful. I love the gold. I love, love, love it. Working with the Antono treatments, when we get to using gold on the body, it is just incredible. So Rashina's got here, represents sunlight, knowledge, wisdom. Absolutely. A keynote here is not necessarily knowledge, because knowledge is in the mental knowing of something, but wisdom. Oh, good analogy. Gold represents achievement, gold medals, yes. And that's in essence now, if we look at the difference between knowledge and wisdom, because knowledge is in the learning, and the wisdom is in the learning and the understanding and put into practice, putting it out there. And hence the gold of achievement and why they use gold medals, because you have the practice. Athletes, for instance, with their art, they have perfected their art, their gift they bring, and wisdom only comes through the perfection of application of that knowledge in life and through experience, where it becomes an inherent knowing. So we go from knowledge through wisdom to inherent knowing. And that's the journey of gold. So gold, in its very positive sense, is a connection with the inherent knowing, the richness, the abundance of the soul essence. We talk about the gold of our soul. And that's really what it is. It is like mining for gold, everything that's uncovered. Um, so it's a very positive outlook, and it is an innate ability to trust in the flow of life. All that glistens is gold. Yeah, and it is interesting, when we consider how modern society has externalized that love of gold. So it's almost like by wanting to accumulate golden jewelry, bling, big necklaces, as you do sort of with those that are in the public eye, sort of with those who've come from nothing, a lot of these rap artists and what have you, where they've come from nothing and then suddenly shot to stardom, where they're ultra, ultra wealthy. They adorn themselves with bling. And it's an externalization of that validation, whereas somebody who is rich in the gold of self actually has that total internal trust and validation of who they are. And gold in itself has a magnetic quality. Somebody who is totally stable and trusting and has access to that wisdom that comes from connecting with the soul within, automatically almost acts as a magnet for others who are seeking. So it's kind of like they sense that about people. They may not be able to put their finger on it, but it's like, I know that this person knows or understands. So there is a divine truth, a divine connection, a divine confidence that goes along with gold. So it does represent richness and royalty and wealth, but in a very, very different way. Somebody who's very, very strong in their personal power, but quietly so. But they have a presence. They absolutely have a presence. So, on the challenging side, if we look at gold as a challenge, it represents somebody who is always seeking, externalizing the gold of self. So it's actually somebody who could be quite materialistic, can become quite obsessive about seeking, um, always looking outside for what it is that they need to find inside. It also represents very irrational fears or phobias. When there is this, it might not be a disconnect from the soul, but it may actually be, for instance, patterns that the soul matrix has actually got embedded within it that have been carried through either from ancestral lineages or past life experiences. So it could be fears and phobias that an individual experiences that there are no rational explanations for. So in a sense, it represents irrationality. But it also represents the continuum of the soul, or if you like, this oneness, this richness, this divine thread, that actually the golden thread that runs throughout all of life, not just our life physically now in this realm, but the golden thread that runs throughout all of our soul lives and all of our ancestors. So that's where that golden thread actually connects us to. So challenging wise, it is a sense of having that thread unraveled, not necessarily being fully connected with it, harnessing some of the fears and the phobias. So we have an opportunity right now to transmute those. Fool's gold is another saying. Yes. See how you connect with these things. It's wonderful when you look at the language and you actually recognize and realize how many just throwaway sayings we actually use, or work with or connect with, that actually have such wisdom within them. When you think about that. So somebody who is in the negative of this issue lacks confidence, lacks trust, is irrational about that. In some ways they can't explain, but they are very fearful individuals, which they may not be able to rationalize. Always looking for the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, that externalization of the looking for the pot of gold. Listen, look at this, pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It's another way of saying that when we actually harmonize that, we connect again with that golden thread of our essence or our soul. So you get the clear and the golden thread, or the gold at the end of the rainbow. Once everything's in balance, then you know, then your soul is present. It's expressing through all of the color frequencies. Somebody who puts off doing what they want to do, there's a deep lack of trust, and it's also, when I get to XYZ point, when I've done that, when I've done this, then I will actually do that. So it's procrastination. So there's a lot of procrastination with this. Let's just have a look. It's somebody who really needs to set themselves free, if you like, from the chains that they have put around themselves, because this is what happens with the gold. It's like somebody who binds themselves with these fears and stops themselves from doing things. So physically, gold impacts that part of the body, which is also influenced by orange. Let's have a look here on the color wheel. We've got orange. Orange and yellow is gold, so gold actually connects with the navel area. And in the navel area, it's very, very interesting because many of the Eastern religions connect with the navel area as being what they call the seat of the hara, the seat of the soul. So no mistake either that they associate that part of the body with that color, with the soul, and with gold. So you have all of these links coming into play. But because it actually is associated with the navel area physically on the body, you find that it impacts on the abdominal system the same way as orange would. So you've got bowels, bladder, pancreas, liver, kidneys, and even the potential for a hernia as well. And that's all because of that inability and the irrationality that keeps them fearful of actually stepping into the truth of who they are. It's kind of like they're really so rigid very often in their belief systems, and so fearful, very needy, feeling of never being fulfilled because they can't find the gold within. So not all the gold in the world is actually going to do that for them. Until they actually are still enough to go within. Also represents addictive tendencies in the same way as orange does. Mental, there's too much focus on, sort of the irrational and the fears. So in its very positive sense, the gift that gold brings is enlightenment and a really deep, really deep contentment. There is a peace that goes along with this. It is a contentment that goes along with the gold. The ability to be happy in life without it being frivolous. It is a purposeful life that can also be conducted through the energy and with the energy of joy. Okay. Comment here, believe also the menopause because women were considered. Yeah, yeah, it probably would. Although it's a bit high up to be associated with changes in menopause, but you could actually find the realization and the release of this once somebody had gone through menopause. If they the focus is less on the lower two chakras and energy centers, that their kundalini energy begins to rise. So it brings them up from the lower connection with childbirth, with the menstrual cycle and the female reproductive organs, and it brings that energy up towards the hara, the seat of the soul. So kundalini, for instance, rises up the spine, brings them into their wisdom and enlightenment. So it's quite a good connection there. Okay, so there's a whole lot with gold, which you can have another look at in your work. It's an amazing, beautiful color. I've done quite a lot of work with gold over the years as well. So I've had to release a lot of my own fears and phobias and, sort of lack of confidence that have gone along with this. And this is one of the colors that if somebody has an aversion to yellow, gold is a wonderful substitute for yellow because it's warmer. It's more easily palatable, and it begins to connect them with that sense of trust before somebody goes into that real vibrancy of yellow. So I think we're going to need to leave the indigo, which is the final one, till next week, unless you just want to read up about indigo in your notebooks, because there's still quite a bit of information to go through next week. So I would like you to read up about the qualities and take a good look. I love this color. You prefer gold to yellow. Yeah, I do too in some ways. Depends on the mood I'm in. But look at this. Isn't this just, this is one of my colors, this one. The indigo is just amazing. It's so deep. Royal blue, yeah, it is. It's royalty. It's deep. It's accessing the mysteries within, accessing the mysteries not only within, but the mysteries of the universe of life. It's like the dark sky. If you deepen this, you get that inky, dark blue sky that's peppered with stars and lights and revealed. I love it. I absolutely love indigo, and it's very, very peaceful. Great to use at night. So I'm going to leave this one with you to perhaps have a read through on your own, which then essentially completes the 13 colors that we work with. And I would just like to spend the last few moments very, very briefly going through the 9-bottle reading, because this is what I'm going to give you as homework for this week. Carry on doing your 3-bottle readings, play with them, but I would also like you to attempt a 9-bottle reading. Now, there is a total breakdown in your workbooks from page 48, that's 48, on the 9-bottle reading, and there are sample forms at the back of your work file that have been provided. So what this does is, instead of only working with 3 colors, so you can actually see that 3 colors are represented by the 3 selections here at the bottom of the grid. Biggest issue, pathway, potential. So it actually now expands on these colors, and it says, okay, so let's have a look at what may be going on for the individual, and let's examine more closely what may be happening at the physical level, at the emotional level, and at the mental level. Now, if you wanted to try this out, what you can actually do is get somebody to choose a color and put it in a certain square on the grid, then just write the word for that color in, put the color back, and then say, okay, now choose a color for the next one. Because you may find that individuals might choose 2 colors in a row. Look, for this instance, you've got gold in here twice. And you'd need to have a lot of bottles for them to be able to do that. So get them to choose one, write it down, replace the color in the selection, and get them to choose again until all of the grid squares have actually been filled with each of the colors. Or their selections. So then what you would do is you would read it. Penny starts at reading here, which says, here there is a past option. This is something that they have gone through in the past, and the likelihood is that because this is a past issue, that they have actually achieved success in the outcome of that. So it says with gold, for instance, interesting that that's in here, that gold in the past means that they probably dealt with some issues around trust, some issues around fears that they've actually managed to resolve. It doesn't necessarily mean that they would have resolved them all, because look here, you've picked up gold in the mental bottle, in the mental block, in terms of what they're dealing with at the moment. But you would fill the grid up and then you would read it as past, present, and future. Do you line them all up in a row? You put them in any order you want. I usually have them up on, sort of stands, but you can just keep them in a row in a different order, because whatever they need to select in terms of the information, they will choose. You will get the story and you will get the information from what they've chosen, especially if you set the intention. So follow the process as you've actually got it in the book and fill up all of the blocks. And what you will find is that there are links between the issues and their future potential, for instance, sort of what they're attracting towards themselves in the future at the moment, and then what their ultimate potential is. So you've got a journey that takes place. You would actually link sort of that with that. And then in the present, sometimes you would actually find that you can link the present with the pathway, and it becomes evident somewhere in here. Now, I'm going to go through that in a little bit more detail next week, but your homework, what I would like you to do is to take, this is in your homework document, which I will send through to you, is to take the workbook, take the understanding, and jot down some notes around the selections and what you feel, what you find, what information you get that sticks out for you. And it may not be something that's actually in your workbook. You may see something in here that nobody has told you, because you start developing a pattern and an ability to see things and sense things at a different level. So just allow yourself to go with it. Use what's in your workbook as a guideline and just go with the reading. So your homework does actually kind of outline, and you've got the framework in your work file itself. So do you have any questions at all, ladies, on where we're at the moment? It's amazing how quickly the time goes, doesn't it? I'm so pleased that I've actually had you both here this evening. It's all a process of practice, and you're okay? Okay, Rashina, thank you. Okay, try this out coming week. Yep. You got a week to actually play with this. So have a go with it and see how you feel. Rashina, you may feel comfortable with this format, you may not. And if you don't, then stick to the 3-bottle reading, which is what I actually generally tend to do. Okay? But it's worth it and it's good to have a little bit of practice with a more expansive picture and expansive perspective and just see what comes up. Okay. Will do. Okay, fabulous, ladies. Take a deep breath in, and thank you so much for sharing this evening. Deep breath in. Just breathe out and let go. And release. And thank you, ladies, and we will talk again next week. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to stop the recording. And God bless to you too, ladies. I know it's actually getting quite late, and I need a drink now because my throat's actually quite dry.